Hey, you out there. Are you listening? Hey, this is Tim Laskus, and you're listening to The Tim Laskus Show. This is episode 89 with Caitlin Pyle. She is one serial entrepreneur. She has some wonderful courses out there that's making her millions. And she's helping people to cut the ties between their job and go work for themselves and learn how to never work for anyone again. So if that's you, if you're sick of your job, you're sick of your boss, this might be the episode for you. So enjoy.
The Tim Laskus Show, in search of entrepreneurial gold. Tim digs deep into the minds of his guests, entertaining, down to earth, and informative. Now, here's your host, Tim Laskus.
Hi, Caitlin. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Tim. Glad to be here.
Yeah. Now, what are you doing when you're not working? Do you have any fun activities that you're involved in?
That's a good question. Well, I like to cook. I love to bargain hunt. I'm always looking. I use this app called ThredUp, and I'm always looking for like designer clothes at a fraction of the cost. And I spend way too much time doing that. But I love working. I really love what I do. So it feels like a hobby because I just have a passion for what I do. So.
Okay. Now, what is that website again? ThredUp? Is that you find
ThredUp? Yeah. It's like you can look at only brand new clothes with tags still on it. Unfortunately, I don't have clothes for men yet. I'm hoping that they'll come out with that soon because I love to be able to shop designer stuff without paying the price that my husband likes to pay.
Well,
but
yeah, well, we all love to save money, especially me. I've been known as a cheapskate. So
me too.
Yeah,
me
absolutely.
Too.
That's great. Well, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself professionally. What are you currently working on?
So I own a company. It's a small media company. It's growing rapidly called BCP Media. And we're basically content creators. We're investors and we're creators. And so our main brand started out in 2014 with Proofread Anywhere. And that has grown into it's multi-million dollars at this point. And we launched it originally in 2014, November 2014. So we're coming up on our 3-year anniversary at the time of this recording. And it has just exploded. And I've kind of just taken my passion for helping people work at home and expanding that. And so that eventually expanded into Transcribe Anywhere. That's an investment project. Scopeschool.com is another investment project. And my latest project is Work at Home School, which is launching in January 2018 with something called the Work at Home Summit. It's a collaborative project that is bringing together about 60 entrepreneurs in the work at home and lifestyle design space to educate the general public, the rest of us, on what it takes to work at home. And the summit speakers are positioned as experts and the school's instructors, and it's actually their content that makes up the school's curriculum. And so they can actually market Work at Home School as if it were their own product. And it's great for bloggers that are kind of up and coming. They have great content, but they're having trouble positioning themselves as experts. We can actually help them do that and market on their behalf. So it allows them to gain a lot of exposure and, of course, new customers on their list and stuff. So, and the main purpose, one of the main purposes, there's a lot of purposes for the project, but we want to bust the myths that working at home is just all MLM or that it's easy or that it's scammy, things like that. So there's a lot of misconstrued, preconceived notions about working at home. And so we're just wanting to make it kind of business for the rest of us. And so, yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. And I just love it. I love helping people connect with skills they can use to generate income, because the more skills you have, the more money you can make. So,
well, I know working from home seems appealing for a lot of people.
Yes.
They're like, I can sit in my pajamas and I can kind of work at my own schedule. I can work my life, have my lifestyle as my main focus and then kind of work around that and do all this. But is working from home really for everyone? Or is there anyone that it's not for?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So there are definitely, you're right. A lot of people think that it's their ideal life because they envision it as like, oh, I'm just in my pajamas, I'm working, I'm making money. And they don't consider the skills that they have to develop to be able to do that. And so they just think, oh, I'm just going to get a work at home job and someone's going to send me stuff to do all day and I'll just be busy and I'll be making money and it's so easy. But that's not what working at home is. Yes, there are many companies that hire remote positions, but they don't pay very well and they don't require a lot of skill, and that's why they don't pay very well. If you really want to actually work at home and create a lifestyle that is enjoyable, maybe something closer to the sitting around on the couch all day, then you have to learn skills. And so the people that it's not a good fit for are the people that are lazy or they have a mindset that that the world owes them something, or that a company is supposed to just give them work to do, and that they don't need to learn anything or develop themselves in any way before they're able to make money. And there are quite a few people out there, and so we do want to reach those people with work at home school, because we want to help them transform their mindset and see that they're in a lot more control, and that life is a lot more satisfying when you're solving your own problems and growing as an individual, and that, our brains aren't at capacity. So that's another overlying goal, is to just help people that are maybe not an ideal fit yet, but could be, and just kind of uncover that potential for them.
So maybe help kind of shape them along and help them kind of find that inner, strength and motivation that most people have, but you definitely have to be a go-getter, and you have to be somewhat still structured. And because if you need somebody to tell you what to do and when to do it, then probably you need to go get a job, because that's what a real, traditional job and a boss is for. To tell you, be here at 8 and this is what you're going to do. You have lunch at 12 and then you be back by 12:30, and then you go home at 5 o'clock at the 5 o'clock whistle. And that's okay. Some people enjoy that. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. But you're giving them an alternative to say, hey, if you're a go-getter, you can go out and you can strive and you can do this on your own without that kind of someone else telling you what to do.
Yes, I agree. There are definitely people for whom that's a really, really good fit, and they like that structure. They need that structure. I think one preconceived notion that some people have is like, oh, I'm not going to be able to concentrate, or I'm not going to be able to focus. And if I was doing my job at home, I don't know how you focus all day, and I get a lot of objections in that vein. But what they don't understand is that when you're working at home for yourself, you are much more motivated, because you're the one generating the income. You're building your own empire. Whereas if you're working at home for a company, you don't have that same motivation, because you're just financing their car payment or their kids' tuition. You're working for another company, and somebody else is ultimately benefiting other than you. But when you're the one who's ultimately benefiting, of course, your clients are benefiting from your services and quality and whatnot, but you're financially benefiting, then it's a lot more motivated to continue building. So,
right. Do you have a success story of someone who maybe, worked a traditional job and then later shifted and kind of found this newfound freedom and financial security?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that she had necessarily a traditional job. Also, she did work as a preschool teacher for about 5 years. She was one of my very first students when Proofread Anywhere first started. We launched our official course in February of 2015, and she was super skeptical, but she wanted to learn skills and wanted to work at home so she could contribute and hopefully help her husband, transition out of a job that he didn't like, and just overall support their family in a way that she wasn't doing at the time. And so she eventually became a proofreader through my program at Proofread Anywhere, and then added on transcription through Transcribe Anywhere. And then one day we were doing an interview to talk about her success with those programs for my blog. And I happened to mention in passing that I was looking for a virtual assistant to help while I was on vacation for 2 weeks, kind of man the ship, so to speak. And she didn't say anything to me about on the video recording, but I got an email from her. She's like, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't have any experience, but I was wondering, what kind of help you're looking for, and that maybe I could help you while you're gone. And then it clicked. I was like, okay, wow. Yeah, I want to bring her on, because I've seen how helpful she was in our student group and everything. And so I took her under my wing and kind of trained her into a virtual assistant. And now she's working for an even busier blogger than me, actually the one who introduced her to me in the first place. So it's all full circle. And she's like a very experienced project manager, very valuable to her team, and, works 40 hours a week from home and loves it. She's just growing every day. We just did actually, that's why I was in the Pacific Northwest during Hurricane Irma, was because I was filming a video with her about her journey, and we're kind of featuring her transformation for work at home school, because she just completely took the bull by the horns and just added skill after skill after skill, and really discovered that the more skills you can learn, the more money you can make. And so she's really come full circle from just being like this unhappy mom or, preschool teacher that didn't really like what she was doing with her life, and then realized that she could create her own income and create freedom for herself working from home. And she's just a completely different person. It's amazing.
Well, that's excellent. And you said she was part of your Proofread Anywhere program?
Yeah, it all started with her joining Proofread Anywhere and learning that skill, and then she just added on skill after skill after skill from there.
Excellent. Well, what are a couple of tips that you would have for some of the listeners out there who are entrepreneurs, who are thinking about, either starting their own business or just kind of dabbling on the side as an entrepreneur, sidepreneur? What are some tips that you would offer them to give them a better chance of success?
Well, I would say never to use the phrase or the thought, I guess, I don't know how, as an excuse to not learn. And I'll give you a small example of that. When I first went to buy proofreadanywhere.com, which at the time I had no idea would turn into a multi-million-dollar business in less than 3 years. We actually hit our first million in 15 months. So I had no idea at that time that it was going to be successful at all. I thought it was going to fail, but I almost didn't start at all because I said, I don't know how to start a website. If you could believe that? There was all the billions of websites in the world. I said, I don't know how to start a website. So for a long time, that kept me from starting. And so that would be my first tip, is just to not use I don't know how as an excuse not to learn how, because there's so many resources to teach you how to do it. Just because you don't know how doesn't mean that you can't learn, right? So that would be my first tip. And then another one would be, if there's something that you don't want to do, like something that's just that you're procrastinating and putting off and you're dreading it because it's a big project and you kind of feel like this urge to get it all done in one day, then what I like to do is set a timer for just 10 minutes, maybe 15, sometimes 20, and I do the thing for that set period of time, and I set a timer and it dings, and then I call it a win, even if I don't keep working past that timer buzzer going off. But what I find that every time that the timer goes off, probably 9 times out of 10, I keep working, and it's really because the hardest part is just getting started, because you have to get that momentum. It's like, but you're just sitting there, you're not doing anything. But when you get going, it's a lot easier to keep going, right? And then the third tip I have would be to work when you feel the most productive, and not when someone tells you are. There's so many books out there, and I have Blinkist, so I read books that way. I kind of read the cliff notes of, popular books, because there's just no way I can read all of them, but I kind of want to read all of them, and so I kind of compromise in that way. But so many books out there that are saying, get up at 5 a.m. because that's your most productive time, or, set your work schedule from 9 to 5. I'm like, that's the life I wanted to escape from. Like, I was feeling crummy all day yesterday, but then around 10 o'clock at night, I got this burst of energy, and I just got a ton of work done. And sometimes even people tell you, your best sleep is between 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. in the morning, your REM sleep or whatever. But if I can't sleep between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., having insomnia for some reason, I get out of bed and I work if that's what I'm thinking about, because otherwise it's just wasted time. And then if I do sleep in the morning, then I don't feel guilty about it. So those would be my tips.
Well, those are great tips. And just to recap is never say, I don't know how, because you jump in there and you do it. You set a time to complete task. And that's so true. Some people kind of have an idea, well, I'm going to do this or that on Saturday. And then the whole day goes by and you're like, man, I didn't get anything done. So just say, but between 1 and 2, this is when it gets done. And then, kind of force yourself, put your back up against the wall. Write it down either in a calendar or on a marker board, which I have. And then also, work when you feel most productive. And as an entrepreneur, when you're out there, doing it, then you work when you have the best motivation. It might be in the morning, might be afternoon, maybe at night. And it's whatever works for you. And I love that. Now, Caitlin, when did you first realize that you kind of had this entrepreneurial spirit?
Well, I look back and I don't ever remember thinking, I want to be an entrepreneur. I do remember saying that I don't want to work for somebody else, but I had no idea how that would actually become a thing. Back in high school, I went to Walmart. I saw that people were selling candy for $3 and $4 a bar to raise money, and I wanted to go to Germany the summer between sophomore and junior year of college or high school. And so I went to Walmart and I bought 99-cent bags of candy and sold it for $3 or $4. And you're not supposed to do that. And so I kind of did it totally hush hush. And I think I did it for a few days, and then I was a really good kid. And so I just didn't want to get caught. But I made, probably $40 or something like that selling candy. And so looking back, I had quite a few inclinations. I mean, looking at all of my jobs and stuff, I didn't like the boss. I felt like there was always something about the boss. I was like, are you kidding me? How are you in a management position? And so I always had this attitude that I just didn't like who was in charge. And so I was like, I need to be in charge, but I had no idea how that would how that would play out. And I was in Germany for a year during college and got my first taste of, remote work as a proofreader. This was in 2007. My first work as a proofreader ever was in Germany, proofreading for non-native English speakers in the English department at the college that I was studying at. And so I got the taste of what it was like to make money, even if you or from your computer at home, but I still didn't have any idea that I could create an income. And the only thing I wanted to do when I got back from Germany was go back to Germany. And so I was looking at how to get a job there, and my bachelor's degrees didn't mean anything to the Germans. And so it was almost like I had just a high school diploma at that point for them. And so I was like applying for jobs. And I didn't realize that it was like super easy to get a visa to stay in Germany as long as you wanted, if you were a freelancer and could show that you had income. And so I had no idea that I could turn freelancing into a full-time gig at all. And eventually, gosh, it was 2008 when I got back from Germany. It took me until 2011. I got fired from my last corporate job pretty brutally. I was there for about a year and a half, and it was a bad situation where my boss, she was old enough to be my mom, was telling me things like I was trash and that I was a pig and that I would die alone, just like terrible things. I was 24 and she was like 60, right? So imagine your mom saying those things to you. And I had made some mistakes on the job, and it was not a good situation. But I vowed to myself at that point that I would never allow somebody else to treat me that way again, ever. And I stuck to that. I didn't have any idea at the time. This was 2011, and I didn't start my blog until 2014. And so, but in between time, I was able to start my freelancing business, or at least take it to the next level, because I'd already had a few proofreading clients. And so I just amped that up over the course of about a year and a half, and then was able to grow that to more than what I was making. I did 43,000 and 47,000, 2013, 2014 in my proofreading income. That was more than I was making at the office job, that I got out of college with my 4-year degree. And so I think it was just like a gradual thing where I realized that, I didn't want to work for somebody else. And I think I'm just doing what I'm supposed to be doing now. I look back at all my jobs and I'm like, yeah, I hated them, but I was always good at getting my friends jobs. And like, I got my sister 3 jobs. I got one girl that I knew in college, 2 different jobs at 2 different places. Like, I just had this knack for hooking people up with money. And so now I feel like I'm helping people do that in a completely different way that's independent from a traditional job. I just feel like I was put on earth to do what I'm doing right now.
Wow, such an inspiring story. Have you seen that boss again since you've been successful and kind of go, you did me a favor, thank you?
Well, I've thought about sending her like a giant singing thank you card a few times. I've seen her butt dial me on she doesn't have my new phone number. I got a new phone number a year ago, but I've seen her butt dial me. She's added me as a friend on Facebook before. I've met with somebody who still works at the office, and I've heard some stories about how she knows what I'm up to now, and it drives her nuts. And so that's satisfying in and of itself, but I haven't seen her since then.
Now, Caitlin, can you talk a little bit about once you went out on your own and you started developing your company? I mean, it sounds like you were, very successful, quickly, and it kind of took off. But was there a time when you were mentally stressed and you felt like, man, I don't know if I can do this? And how did you overcome it?
Oh man, yeah, really. About 3 or 4, maybe in a 3 to 6 month period after Proofread Anywhere's first online course launched. So this was like late summer, early fall of 2015. My husband and I had been living in Ecuador because we decided we're going to go and travel in South America for a year in 2015 and to 2016. And there were a bunch of haters that just came out of the woodworks, and they were in the court reporting realm. And basically they were just jealous that I was training people how to be proofreaders, and they didn't think of it first, but they were saying like horrible things like I was a scammer and that I was stealing people's money by saying that they could actually make good money as a proofreader. Just because they weren't making good money doesn't mean that other people weren't going to make money. And I had never dealt with that before. I mean, obviously I've dealt with a horrible boss, but they weren't my bosses. And if these people were coming out of the woodworks and these are potential clients of my students, I was really worried that I would just get this bad reputation based on rumors. And these people had never seen my course content. So the stuff they were saying was just, completely false. But because they were older and experienced in the industry, I was afraid that they were going to have a lot more credibility with my potential students and potential customers than I would. And so But fortunately, at that point, I'd already had like quite a few successful students that were able to find work in the industry, regardless of what they were saying. And the time will tell is what I said. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to quit. Time will tell. Time will show that these people that I'm not a scam, that my program works. And here we are 2 years later, and I was right. So, but I was taxing at the time because I was like, man, should I just shut it down? It's like the imposter syndrome kind of popped up. I'm like, is this the authority that can shut me down? And when I realized that they were not, that they were just like, bitchy old ladies, to say, in the nicest way possible, ironically, the nicest way possible. And then I realized, okay, yeah, I'm just going to keep going, because they're not used to seeing a younger person come and take the industry by storm. The industry is really sleepy. Nobody really knows how to market. And so when somebody comes in and actually markets, it's weird and it's unacceptable, because that's not the way things are done around here, type thing.
Wow. So it sounds like you were able to overcome this. And I'm sure, everyone loves to be praised. And when people start coming out and attacking us, that's got to be a really uncomfortable situation. But the way I look at it is, you must be doing something right.
Right.
The people who get attacked are the people on top of the pedestal. And for whatever reason, human nature, others like to tear them down. So that was probably a sign that you were doing something right. And so, then the jealousy kind of comes out. But I'm glad that, you were able to overcome that. And I'm sure every time you've developed probably some, thick skin to kind of let that just brush by you and not impact you, because otherwise, it would definitely, it would just kind of eat you up inside. But it sounds like you handled that well. What would you say, Caitlin, is one of the most fulfilling moments of this entrepreneurial journey?
Well, that I feel my first inclination to answer that question is that it hasn't happened yet. And I think that might be a good thing. I know that there have been a lot of fulfilling moments. Like every time I see a student post in the group that they got their first client, or they paid off their car, or some amazing result because of one of my programs, I feel really, really happy about that. But in terms of my professional journey and my business building, I just don't feel like it's happened yet. There's obviously been a lot of success and been featured in some media and been on awesome podcasts and stuff like that. But I feel like maybe I still have that hunger, which I feel like is healthy. Like I'm really happy with what I'm doing right now, but I still have that hunger that's driving me forward into like the next thing. And I think that's probably a good thing. So I'm really looking forward to the launch of Work at Home School. And I feel like that's going to be my foray not out of proofreading forever. Obviously, I'm still going to be like the face of Proofread Anywhere as long as I'm alive, probably. But in a way, I'm looking at that as like my debut out of, just being the proofreading blogger and into more of the internet marketing world publicly. I've been in it obviously for the last 3 years, but most people, I've had people that are messaging me and they don't take the time to Google me to learn more about me. And so they're like, hey, can you proofread my book? It's about building a 6-figure business. And I'm like, no. And so I've kind of noticed that people don't know me. And so I'm looking forward to, creating something that just rocks the world, rocks the internet marketing world, rocks the whole work at home world, and in a way make a name for myself. And I feel like that will be a very fulfilling moment, when we succeed in that way. But I have a feeling that once I get to where I'm considering is that success, that moment, I'll still not consider it to be the most fulfilling moment, which is good, because you're always wanting to go forward and learning more and impacting more people. And if at any point you feel like you're done, you failed at that, I think. So.
Well, absolutely. Where you're staying hungry, you keep raising the bar, and that's what makes you successful. And so that sounds like you're on a wonderful path. Well, Caitlin, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but before we go, let the listeners know where they can find you online, on social media, and about a little more about the Work at Home School that you have going.
Yeah. So I know that we're talking to a lot of entrepreneurs right now. So if there are any affiliate marketers in the audience, we are at this time actively recruiting our affiliate team for Work at Home School. So to learn more about that, you just go to workathomeschool.com /affiliate-info. Or you can go to workathomeschool.com and be able to contact us through there. You can find me at caitlinpyle.co or bcpmediainc.com. You can also look me up on Facebook, Caitlin Pyle without a K and without any Y's in my first name. So.
Excellent. Well, wonderful. Thank you, Caitlin. It was a pleasure having you on the show, and I look forward to watching you on your journey.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Want more entrepreneurial tips? Go to timlaskus.com.